Hello, welcome to a very special episode of D54 / Cinemondo / Pardesi reviews, because we're doing a 3-part, I guess, review, chat, discussion about the biggest blockbuster. Can I still say that?
Yeah.
In the Malayalam film industry, King of Kotha. So we're going to break this down into 3 parts. We're going to discuss some of it here on my channel. We're going to continue that conversation over to Kathy's channel on Cinemondo, then continue that even more onto Melanie's channel on Pardesi reviews. So strap in. We're going to discuss discuss this movie a lot, and a lot of sort of different things, not just the movie itself, but what's happening with this movie, some of the reasons why it didn't work, some of the reasons why we think it worked. And obviously do some comparisons with other Malayalam movies, and also some comparisons with, some bigger mass movies from the Tamil Telugu industries.
Yes.
But I think the best way to start this, guys, is because, 4 promotions, I think it was, coming into this movie, a lot of hype, a lot of buzz to come into this. So, what were your expectations sort of coming into this movie when you sort of sat down in the cinema, right there in
Sky
LA
high.
and Denver? Yep.
Sky high. I mean, that's the thing is, this is Wayfarer Films, which is Dulquer's own production company, was a part of the production behind it. And this is the same director that he worked with in his debut. No, that's correct. Never mind. Sorry. This is the debut director. Debut director, son of a famous director, Abhilash Koshi. And it's, Dulquer has been in other industries. He's done Tamil films. He's done Telugu films. So he was all about, he's been involved with promotion in these other industries. And it felt much more like a big Telugu release, right? With, teaser posters, motion posters, and teasers and whatever, and all these songs coming out. It felt very different than the normal, almost non-existent marketing that we see for almost any other Malayalam film.
Yeah, they did seem to take it to the next level marketing wise, because I love seeing movie marketing, because I get inspired by it. I kind of do movie marketing, so when I see it, and you're right, like usually you see a Malayalam trailer, and next thing you know, so when's this coming out? I'm expecting like glimpses, title announcements, the trailer, the second trailer. But when it comes to Malayalam, it's like, oh, there's the trailer, they're done, it's coming out. So when I saw, So there was so much promotion, and he was so heavily involved, like even beyond like most stars in any film. Like he was doing promotional tours. They were doing like Times Square, motion posters and trailers. And I mean, that's unheard of, so they were really pushing this.
That was the first one on the big screens of Times Square. Like, I was shocked.
So they were not, they were not trying to market this as a small indie, the kind of Malayalam film we're kind of used to, which is a little more thoughtful and emotional. And like he went like, I'm going out big on this one. I'm not fitting into my genre that I'm supposed to fit into. I'm going to go out big in action and see what happens. He's just playing around with it. He's an artist, so I feel like he's trying something new. He wanted to kind of reach a broader audience, and so I think that he went for it. He gave it a shot, and so that was impressive to see it build up, because it was a lot of psych. Lots of
definitely. Yeah. No, definitely. It was very the feeling I got from this project, just from sort of all the promotional stuff we talked about, was it was going to be very ambitious what they were trying to approach here, because as you guys mentioned, like all the promotions for other things, they're so small, and I don't do too many reaction videos and stuff like that, because there's not that many opportunities sort of do them, so I'll sort of jump onto whatever I have. But I will say, looking at each of them, like even coming back to the teaser, teaser felt like it felt like a different kind of Malayalam movie. It didn't feel like the thoughtful piece that we've seen. I think we've mentioned Joji in the past, like Naya 2. These movies are more about their teasers. I think looking back on them would be like scenes from the movie itself. So it just sort of you're sort of just in that zone. You're like, well, okay, I'm interested to see what happens here. A short 1-minute clip. The teaser, I think, for King of Kotha was like it was like a mini trailer from what I remember, and had some really standout moments. I still remember the one which was like him just showing his face at the last moment and just seeing blood on the face with the blades around him. I was like, okay, wow, this looks this was like something else. So I didn't really go in expecting to watch a Malayalam movie, if that kind of makes sense. I expected something really different.
Same. And also because this was being released in multiple languages.
Yeah,
it was being released in Telugu. It was being released in Tamil. So they were seeking out those audience as well, not just the Kerala audience, not just the Malayalam speaking audience that lives across the world. They wanted, I mean, Dulquer has crafted his career to work in all these different industries, including the Hindi industry. Yeah. So he wants to have a broader reach with his career.
Yeah,
definitely. And he's definitely on that path. I think this was probably the next step for him, I think. And I think, unfortunately, commercially it's not worked out as well as they probably hoped it would have. But before we go into that, I want to ask you guys, what was the theater scene for you guys? Because we have the advantage here, Australia, LA, Denver. we're going across the world. Yeah. When I went to see it in Melbourne, I'll be honest, the cinema was not very full. Like it was it was pretty quiet. I was considering how much, like we just talked about how much promotion there was, Times Square and all this, and considering there is a strong Malayalam contingent here in Melbourne, because when we talk about I want to talk about some of the other movies that were successful, especially 2018. When I saw 2018 in cinema, I think I saw on the first weekend, it was just about full. Like it was, I mean, it's a small cinema, like what they show for the Malayalam movies and Indian movies. They're not the, the big VMAXs that are in the sort of Melbourne, which are, that they're huge cinemas. This was a small cinema, but at the same time, they were packed. This one, man, I would say like a quarter full. Which is really surprising.
I was also surprised. Now, what was interesting to me is here in the Denver area, it's very unusual for a Malayalam film to even appear in a theater. Okay, so it passed that hurdle. But what was interesting to me is on the opening day, which was Thursday here, there were 2 screenings of it in Telugu at my theater and only 1 in Malayalam. So, and again, it was a smaller theater, but I had my row to myself, and I was really surprised.
Wow!
And there were some other big families. Maybe they saw I had picked that center seat, and they're like, "Okay, we'll sit in the back." But today, on Sunday, again, like you're saying, at most maybe a quarter full of my theater. So I was surprised. Also, I've definitely gone to other Malayalam films. Maybe it's more in the Chicago area where I've had full theaters, and this wasn't.
Yeah, wow.
So I was really surprised. I was really surprised.
We usually Indian films show up at theaters that are relatively close by where I live. For some reason, Malayalam films are only showing outside of LA. I don't know why. So this wasn't that unusual that this film would be an hour away near the airport. Which is goodness. Torture. So driving anywhere in LA is torture. So to drive like that, it's like, do I really? So I got there. It was again kind of a smaller theater, but again, it was super limited, like where it was showing, and it was like 2 or 3 theaters, only 2 times a day, like 6 and 9. That's it. And then I noticed after the first day, they added a 2:00 show to one of the theaters. That's the one I went to. But it was only like, it was about half full. I mean, actually, usually when I go see Indian films, I'm the only one there. So I'm not, I mean, the only time I had a crowd was when I went to RR special screening and KGF 2, which still is like probably 4 more people. We don't have, and I go to early screening. Triangles there, I think, because I'm not going to nighttime screenings. I may.
Could be.
I try to go early to avoid the crowd, so I do. But this one I went I think kind of a prime time weekend day, which would be a good time to go to a movie, and it was about half full. But I guess I kind of expected it because it was in such a limited, weird area that I don't know. I mean, even people like me, I mean, you had to be really want to go see it to leave LA, which is where most people live. So but but there's that purchase again.
Sometimes I wonder because at first, because I kept checking when are there going to be screenings, and in the U.S. the full weekend schedule doesn't come out until Wednesday. Right. So I had actually I've now seen the film twice, because at first it was only going to be playing on one day, on Sunday of the whole weekend. Like, okay, well I better book my ticket. And then I checked again on Wednesday. I was just curious. I'm like, wait, it's opening Thursday night. Okay. But other people, if they weren't watching and checking for it, wouldn't have seen them. Maybe there were bigger crowds on Friday night, but I don't know. That's not when I went. So,
but again, I don't feel like they made it easy to see. I think that hurt the box office. So it wasn't just the multiple screenings per day. Everybody could go find it wherever they lived, and I think that kind of hurt it. I don't know why they did it that way.
It's weird because I get I have fortunately for me, it's not an hour away. It's actually just 5 minutes away. It's literally just down the road.
Nice.
Fortunately, so that was good. And they do play Malayalam movies here. I've seen quite a bit, but it is one show a day. They would just play at the 9:20 show at the prime time, and but as I said, I coming in, I expected the theater to be more full, just based on all of the promotion that was happening. I thought this was going to be not just a pan-Indian hit, but sort of even reach sort of international markets. Yeah, because I remember transitioning a little bit to sort of the other successful movies, and specifically 2018, that movie was it was basically jam-packed, and it actually made the theater experience much better, to be honest. Because that movie itself was one that was very much about community and things like that, and that was definitely a Malayalam movie at the heart of it. It's literally about Kerala. That movie couldn't be more.
I mean, that one had Tovino Thomas, who has become beloved, but also it was about an experience that probably everyone's family in the theater had lived through. So
definitely,
I think that had an extra factor. I don't know how this was marketed and what the censor level was in India, but I was kind of horrified that there were some little kids kind of going up and down the aisle in my theater today.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Same.
Really violent.
No, there were some children also at I don't know, some kids, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 years old, at the theater as well. And I was like, okay, some of these scenes, we'll get into some of the scenes, but there's some pretty crazy ones. But I will say it's pretty sorry, I was gonna say that I think one thing that this movie, it's such a stark difference between what this movie did in terms of marketing and promotions, right? The thing that those two movies, Roman Chan's the other one, which was a surprise hit. Same with 2018. Both of them really, word of mouth for them got so good that it grew, in time. It was basically little marketing, so little that I think 2018 actually even sort of shot itself in the foot a little bit because they sold the digital rights way too early. It actually got out of cinema way too soon because people were still watching it in cinema, but it's we already signed the deal for the digital release. But I guess that's one thing. I want to get your thoughts on that. How do you think that in general, even movies, how much can word of mouth impact it like this? Because it's kind of a weird situation now, and it's kind of sad a little bit that word of mouth is so powerful that it can basically ruin a movie after the first weekend. And if there's enough bad reviews for it, it can just be just canned.
And I feel like it becomes a pile-on. People feel like if they don't say it sucked, that they're not cool or something. And I'm always rooting for movies. I don't like to just trash movies or go out of the gate saying this is a huge disappointment, total bomb, flop. That brings me no enjoyment to trash a movie because this movie is far from a flop. It's not a terrible movie. I've seen terrible movies, and this is not one of them. So, I think they're a little too harsh, but maybe again, the expectations, in a way where you're talking about the marketing, you almost shoot yourself in the foot when you do that because you get the expectations so high, Yeah. You want to try and get that first new weekend audience. That's how it works. I know they said that one day it was I guess a work day, and then it became so they're hoping to see a little bit of increase. It didn't totally bomb, but way below expectations, I know. But
I'm not haven't been following it closely on Reddit, but some of the people on my channel know Catherine Matthews, and she's a moderator on the Malayalam cinema forum for Reddit. Oh, okay. And so she was reporting to me that the dialogues, the scripts, and I'm only experiencing them through subtitles. So I always, it's filtered, and I give a lot of leeway because I don't know how good it sounds in the original Malayalam, how the turn of phrases or whatever is often lost in an English translation anyway, so it doesn't have the full impact. But people were saying the dialogue sounded cringe, that they were too dumbed down because they were going to be dubbed in all these other languages. So Malayalam audiences are extremely critical about scripts and good writing. Yeah. And that's something that I love about them, but also I think they're too harsh, or they didn't feel like it felt Malayalam enough, that it was just too much like a Tamil or Telugu big mass, like a push bar or something like that.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, it's all good, right? Like I don't have that perspective. I'm an outsider.
Yeah.
I don't have that perspective of someone who grew up in Kerala to say this doesn't feel like what a Malayalam movie should feel like. I was like, this is awesome. This is Dulquer doing this big action movie. I love it, right?
Yeah.
So I just come at it from a very different perspective than the home audience.
Yeah.
And so, but I think they're being too harsh. I really do.
Oh yeah,
really do.
Mm-hmm.
No, I completely agree, because I did sort of after this because we were sort of discussing on our sort of channels and stuff like that with ourselves to say, hey, this is my reaction, this is what I'm seeing. I was surprised at seeing even IMDb giving it like a 6.1 at the time when I saw it, and it was even lower in the Indian audiences. Like I think the international audience gave it a bit higher, but the Indian audience were like 5.8 or 5.7 or something like that. And I was like, this is not that bad a movie at all.
No,
that is like way too harsh.
That's just trolls.
Yeah, pretty much. And I saw it was like a lot of like 10-star reviews and 1-star reviews. So it's just so extreme. Realistically, this movie doesn't sit on both. It's not a 10 out of 10. It's not a 1 out of 10 either. It's somewhere in between them, probably above 5, I would say. That's way too low. But it's interesting because I also saw a bit of the comments on Reddit and stuff like that. And Dulquer is really getting like a punching bag. It felt like I felt so bad. Like people were just really sort of attacking him, particularly for his performance. Now, can get into that a little bit here. What did you guys think of Dulquer's performance in this? I really liked it. Again, the language stuff, like you, Melanie and Kathy, I'm assuming too, like the language stuff, it doesn't hit us as much because we're used to reading everything in subtitles and it's been translated, and even things like comedy or action, we sort of perceive it a bit differently. We're not getting, a lot of the times goes ahead and we have to interpret it a different way because, what we're presented is different to what's actually been said a lot of the times. But I personally felt Dulquer in this movie, for me, I actually really liked his performance of his. Like I thought it was, because we had seen Second Show just before this, we had seen a few other Dulquer movies recently as well. And I think that like what he sort of brought in this movie that was a bit different was that his intensity in this one was just at a next level, I thought. Like he was ferocious at times. Like he was just at times he was just pure evil, and some of the expressions he had on his face were fantastic. So I actually I had no issues with him at all. I thought he had the charisma. He had basically that menacing presence. There's always sort of a good side to him in some of his movies. Well, not always, but a lot of times there's a good side to him. In that movie, in this one, I felt it was almost absent. Like it was just like he would like, I'll sort of, obviously this is boys review, but the scene that shocked me was, oh my God, when he grabs his reintroduction in the second half, when he comes back to Kotha and he just grabs a man by the throat and just
that was
barehanded. I was like,
did he like rip out his carotid, his artery? Is that what happened? It was like, it was so gross.
It was just like barehanded.
It was intense.
He didn't strangle the guy. He like ripped his jugular out or whatever. It was
exactly.
I'd never seen that before. And I've seen a lot. I watch horror movies. I've never seen someone tear out a jugular like that. That was amazing. And it's funny too, because I think he's playing against type because he's like this good-looking puppy dog. I mean, he can't get past the friendly good looks he has. So that made him even more of a heavy lift to go into that super dark area, to be a scary villain, to be really icy and cold and to project that through his eyes. But then also like with the woman he met, to kind of bring a little bit of that humanity in there. And I think he did a great job straddling both of those, like the little bit of the struggle he was having. I mean, I just don't have any problem with his acting. There's no reason to trash the guy for his acting. He was perfect in this. He delivered what he needed to. It's ridiculous.
There's so many other big heroes who straddle that line of being a badass with action and being the puppy dog in love. Vijay and Tamil cinema. Like there's so many examples. Okay, so there's no reason why Dulquer can't do it too. And watching it for the second time today, there's two scenes that stood out to me where he was really switching it up on a dime. One is when he comes to the Tara's bookstore and sees the guy. At that point, I don't think he knows that Tara has any kind of connection to this guy. But he's just, what are you looking at me? Like, you could see the look of fear on Tara's face. And the minute her college buddy leaves, he's like, "Oh, did I scare you?" Like he's trying to be all sweet and sexy, but he's like, "Yeah, if he hadn't have picked up that book, I would have killed him." So it was he was kind of straddling. Really and then again, the scene when what was Chumbun Joe's? Was it Ranjit? Had another gangster like took her with the college buddy, kidnapped Tara, and Dulquer comes running, and then you literally don't know in that moment, is he going to kill her? Like you really don't know. You really don't know, and you can tell she is terrified. And then he goes completely berserk. And he doesn't just, dispatch people with fisticuffs. He's like, he stabs people
multiple spankings.
Exactly. Joe's, the other gangster guy is like,
correct.
Whoa!
Damn, dude. Yeah, I know that was
definitely.
Great. That was really
it's really good. I will mention sort of one more thing before we shift over to Kathy's channel and discuss this more and continue the specific conversation around Dulquer. So keep following along.
Exactly.
I will say, like, one other thing that I really liked about Dulquer in this movie is like there is sort of two halves to him, and I actually see that transition. So like when he comes back, he's a different person. So he's actually, and he's so good at doing that, taking us, as we sort of mentioned before, taking us on a journey, and he does it again in this movie.
Right.
And he does it so well, I think, because when he comes back, you just see him. His face is different. His attitude is different. Some of the scenes are completely different. He's less jovial at times. It's like the joy has been ripped out of him, and he shows that in every single scene. Even when he's drinking with his friend later on, you can tell he's a different person. So he's able to carry that evolution so well. So Dulquer was amazing, but let's now transition over to Kathy's channel on Cinemondo and talk about it some more. So thanks for listening, guys.
See you guys at Cinemondo next. And then after me, make sure you chase down Melanie's channel because we have even more to say. So this is you're going to get all at once. Okay. Bye.
Thanks, guys.